Write an essay demonstrating the folly of war with illustrations from an artist of the floating world by Kazuo Ishiguro.
今日職場で悲しい知らせがありました。親会社の社長が亡くなったそうです。
それはお気の毒に。
正直に言いますと自殺なのです。
まさか。
大社長は戦時中に私たちを巻き込んだ事業のいくつかに対して明らかに責任を感じておられました。
そうですか。それにしてもいささか極端な話ですな。
時々思うんですが、本来なら命を捨てて謝罪すべきなのに自分の責任を直視できない卑劣な人間がたくさんいるんじゃないでしょうか。
しかし祖国のために忠誠心を持って働いた人々を全て戦争犯罪人と呼ぶわけにはいかんでしょ
う。でも我が国を誤った方向に引きずり込んだ人々がいることは確かです。彼らが過ちを認めまいとするのはそれこそ卑劣極まる態度です。
卑劣極まる。
So questions in the essays usually have a two-sided part. So for example, I'm using an example from our text, Artist of the Floating World. Write an essay demonstrating the folly of war with illustrations from an Artist of the Floating World by Kazuo Ishiguro. Basically, the two parts of this question will include folly and war. You can actually underline that because they will help you in finding the right topic sentences for your essay. Once you've done that, the other thing we need to know is that I've talked about morality in the previous essay. Essays on essays on set text also have the same aspect. They either ask about virtue or vices, and you need to identify that from the get-go, that the essay is talking about a virtue or a vice. The question is asking about a virtue or a vice. For example, in our question here, we're talking about folly. In this case, folly, if I may use other words, is absurdity, foolishness. Mm-hmm. So in essence, this is basically a vice. And in the ideal world, a vice is punished. Mm-hmm. A virtue is rewarded. So at the end of your analysis, you must bring that out, that this is a virtue or this is a vice and it was rewarded, or this is a vice and it was punished. So once you have identified that, you now need to identify characters. Characters in this story who will now go hand in hand with answering your question. So for example, in our question, the folly of war, we can look at characters, for example, who have probably or have incidents relating to them from or that relate to this issue of war. So for example, we may pick a character like Ono. We may pick characters like Kuroda, for example. We can talk about Shintaro. Yes. We can talk about Kawakami. Mm-hmm. We have characters, you can pick them. And even if you pick one character, you can pick one character and have 4 incidents or 5 incidents relating to them. So for example, in the story of Artist of the Floating World, if you just picked Ono for this topic alone, for this question alone, you can actually get enough points to talk about the folly of war. So once you've picked your character or characters, you need to find the situations that are involved. And these situations will now translate into your topic sentences. Now, before I go to the topic sentences and the situations, remember, you have been given 450 word limit. And that 450 word limit is supposed to be divided into 6 paragraphs. 6 paragraphs. One paragraph, or the first paragraph, is the introduction. Then 4 paragraphs are the body. And these 4 paragraphs are now the ones you're going to use the topic sentences to build your essay. And then you have the conclusion. Students usually try to play the game of, what I may call with the charity sweepstake. They try to make, to try and get both. Like we were talking about the close test, whereby you are stroking. This is this. If it's not this, it's this. So students sometimes will say, they've said they need 4 paragraphs. But even if I write 6 paragraphs, they will mark the 6 paragraphs and get the best. Probably. True. That could happen. But remember, that 450 word mark has a point. So you write your 6 paragraphs, which will probably not be well, they will take in a lot of your time, so they will not be well detailed. And then you end up not getting the full mark, as you're going to discuss what is full, what is thin, what is fair. You don't get the full mark, and then the examiner comes and picks the best paragraphs. And probably all your best paragraphs are thin, so you only get 4 points. We'll discuss what that means. And then they will come and find out, because of using the 6 paragraphs, so you had 8 paragraphs in total, you had exceeded the word limit. So you will get marks deducted. So you have your marks deducted for trying to play a game of chance, if I may say so. So try to be well prepared so that you do not have to play the game of chance. So you have your points listed before you even get to writing it. So that you know, I am good. This point, I think I can develop it well. I can develop this point. I have enough illustrations for this. I have enough illustrations for this. This one, I am a little bit unsure, so I'll keep it I'll keep it pending. This one, I think I have a better stand of doing this than the other one. And therefore you have your points and you can actually list them in the right order without any pressure. So now that we have done our preparations, we now need to delve into the writing of the essay. So we have the introduction that we have talked about. Your teacher, I know with time will discuss with you the different types of introductions and the advantages of each and the disadvantages of each. We have what we refer to as a general introduction, the contextualized introduction, the paraphrased introduction. Sometimes even the listing of the points is also an introduction. I'm not going to say the best introduction is this or I prefer this. Each has its own strengths and weaknesses, and as a student, you need to know which you're more comfortable with and which one you will maybe score maximum points. The introduction is worth 2 marks. And for those 2 marks, you will get 0 if 1, you go back and mention exactly what the questioner said. So our question is talking about the folly of war. Demonstrate the folly of war. If you go back and say, in the book, Artists of the Floating World, the folly of war has been demonstrated. Once you've repeated the question, that introduction is null and void. So you try as much as possible to use other words, if possible, to show that you actually understand the question. Look for synonyms. Look for anything else, but don't go straight and repeat the question as it was. 2, if you define terms, folly is the act of being foolish. War is where people or countries go to acts of violence against each other. You define terms, you're done. Again, no point. And those 2 points are very important. So those are some of the don'ts when you're writing your introduction. Maybe one more point on the introduction is that it needs to be brief. You need to capture your introduction in the first 4 lines, first 4 sentences. Don't go too far. Don't write 8 lines. Don't go for 9 lines. 4 lines, 4 sentences. 4 lines are enough for you to have your introduction because it's brief. And you're also working towards reduction of the 450 word limit. Because remember, imagine if you used all your words with the introduction, then you use the 450 word limit when writing the body. And as you are going to see, the body is usually very comprehensive. You miss out on important points. So now the introduction. 4 points. So I give an example of my introduction from the question. So the folly of war. If you go to your guide, the Climax Publisher's Guide 3-in-1 for an artist of the floating world, the question I have answered is sample 1 at the back there. I have answered it. There are some answers you'll find there. You can use those answers. they are a sketch so that you can actually develop them. So my introduction, I have decided to use a contextualized introduction. That is, I'm getting my answer straight from the text. An Artist of the Floating World shows us that violence is unnecessary and wasteful. The Japanese suffer immensely from the war, and even the propagators of the war, like Ono and Masuda, see the futility. So that is my introduction. I have got it straight from the text. Another person might decide to go general, well and good. Another person might do all the other types of introduction, but make sure that you bring out the aspect of understanding the question. So when we have the paragraph, the essay body, the paragraph has or should have one, the topic sentence. I talked about the outline. Your topic sentence carries what we refer to as the situation, the incident. You identified your character. So for example, I have identified my character in this case as Ono. Now I need to find the incident or the situation that answers the question, about the folly of war. So my situation or my question, my situation, my incident is this one. Mr. Ono loses family members to the war. That is my topical sentence. We can see the character there and we can see an incident. And this incident is related to the question, demonstrate on the folly of war, according to An Artist of the Floating World. That is now my situation, my topic sentence. And I have picked my situation. Now, after that, I'm just trying to confirm that I'm getting the question as it is. Demonstrating the folly of war with illustrations. So I have my situation or my incident. After that, once you have your topic sentence, you need to give us the background. And the background, we refer to it as what has led to the incident. What has brought us to this incident from the story? You get it from the story. So my background here reads like this. Mr. Ono suffers great loss of family members, his wife Michiko and his son Kenji. Suffers great loss of family members, his wife Michiko and his son Kenji to the war. That is just background. So I'm still picking this, if you can see, I'm picking this information from the text, but it gives us a background on why we are talking about Mr. Ono loses family members. Now, when you give the background, it is usually backed up by what we refer to as the actions. Now, the actions or the activities are illustrations that tell us more about this background. So I continue and say that Michiko, who is Ono's wife, dies in unclear circumstances in a random attack on Japan during the war. It is claimed that the war or that attack did very little damage besides the death of his wife. I'm still going back to the aspect of folly of war, that he loses his wife and there's nothing more that is lost. That is actually a statement that we get from the book. Very little other damage happens, but his wife dies. Kenji, his son, was a soldier in the Japanese army, dies in Manchuria in a desperate attempt to try and defend the honor of Japan. And he dies crossing a landmine infested land with many other young men from Japan. So that is my illustration. That is, now I am giving the illustrations, the actions that has led us to the background that has led us to the situation. We can actually see these things relating with each other. So once you're done with your background and your illustrations or your actions, you of course are expected to give, for every action we say that there's a reaction. What is your feeling about this? Your reaction. Give us your reaction. Maybe now this is where, remember this is an interactive essay. That's how essays are supposed to be. Tell us something. Tell us something about how you feel. So for example, in this case, this war in Japan has caused irreparable loss, especially to Ono and his family. That his son dies crossing a landmine, his wife dies in a random attack. So my reaction, my feelings, what can I say? Can you react to these actions? Then the other thing that you need to add up is there after the reaction is the virtue or the vice. Remember, we talked about virtues or vices. And these virtues or vices are important in the sense that they help us give what we call the clincher sentence at the end. The clincher sentence also referred to as the outcome. I'm going to refer to as the outcome. So in this case, I can continue and say that war is foolish and unnecessary. That is my virtue. So I have my vice. War is foolish and unnecessary. That is my virtue. And then the outcome is that Ono loses his wife and son to this war, which essentially achieves nothing it's set to do. Now, I have broken this down into those parts so that we can understand. And as you will see, I will on the screen, I have the paragraph with the breakdown of the background, the activities, the reaction, the virtues, and the outcome. And then I will, there's also that paragraph down there of how it would look like as a complete paragraph. Remember, you don't write the paragraph with all these aspects. I'm just hinting out. I'm just breaking it down to make sure that you get all those aspects. If you can maybe put all this down in your paragraph, you get what we call a full. And a full is 3 marks. So that is how you write or how you break down your essay writing. Then finally, we have the conclusion, the paragraph that concludes your statement. This is supposed to be the shortest and briefest of them all. Your conclusion should basically just summarize what you've been saying. Things you do not do here is that you do not introduce a new idea. Some students, because of not preparing, you've written your 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs, and then you realize, I have a better point. But since I'm here, let me introduce it. You don't get anything for that. You don't introduce a new point here. You're just summarizing. Don't give us a moral lesson in in conclusion. War, for example, you say war is bad. No, don't give us a moral lesson. Just summarize. What is it that you've been trying to talk about? So, for example, in my case here, my conclusion. In conclusion, it is evident from the examples above that violence is an absurdity we do not need to pursue, as the adverse effects far outnumber the benefits, if any. That's it. Simple, 1 sentence, I'm done, and it's clear that I have summarized my work. So essentially, if you get a full mark in all the paragraphs, you get 12 marks. That is 3 times 4. If you get 2 marks in introduction, if you have written an introduction as it should be, you get 2 marks in conclusion. So all in all, you get 16 marks. So the 4 marks go to what we refer to as the language. And this is awarded in the sense that for the body, that is paragraph 1, paragraph 2, 3, 4, 5. If you get 0 to 3, you get 1 mark for language. If you get 4, 5, or 6, you get 2 marks for language. If you get 7, 8, or 9, you get 3 marks for language. And if you get 10, 11, or 12, you get 4 marks for language. And therefore, that all sums up to the 20 marks that you need to make a full essay.
Did you know that you can now watch all setbook video films anywhere and at your convenience? Download Soma Sasa app from the Play Store of your mobile phone and choose the setbook video that you desire to watch. Click play and start to enjoy watching our KICD approved setbook video films and other e-learning videos. It's that simple. Download Soma Sasa app from the Play Store, choose a video and enjoy watching. Soma Sasa app. Masomo mkononi. Soma Sasa app, your mobile phone revision partner. Call us on 0722 751375 or visit our website www.climaxpublisher.org. Soma Sasa app, modernizing education.